Hello everyone. Welcome to the recap of the travel campaign I'm currently running with a group of old friends. A group of friends I've played with for over 30 years. The reason I'm doing this recap is because it's been a long time since we played. We normally get together around once a month. We play all day, share a meal, and generally enjoy each other's company. Sadly, the last few games of the campaign have been cancelled for a variety of reasons, but we are scheduled to meet again and continue the campaign. However, looking at the time between the last game and the next, a large amount of time has passed, and it is likely that very few will remember where we are in the campaign itself. So, this is why I've opted to produce a little video giving a recap of the game so far. So, let's meet the party. First, let's meet Casey. Casey has opted to end a successful career in law enforcement in order to travel the universe. Then there is Fenn. Fenn has spent most of her career in space, either as an Imperial scout or working privately, salvaging derelict ships. Sadly, she didn't strike it lucky when she was scouring the space for salvage, so now she's looking for something new. This is Fitz. Fitz is a rogue and a scoundrel looking for his next fortune. Hopefully his roguish past will not cause issues in the party. This is Ford. Ford is a scholar who is specialised in linguistics, and he wants to travel and learn more. Randall has been a colonist for most of his life, responsible for keeping the lights on wherever he lived. He's become well trained as an engineer. Finally, there is Thelma. Thelma is a badass marine. She is a weaponsmith, well skilled in taking down her enemies, and on top of that, she's a trained medic to boot. Being so fearsome and competent, she will likely be a prime target for any NPCs with an ounce of sense, and as the sole medic will likely be the first target of any deadly monster that the GM decides to throw at the party. Sorry about that. Okay, so now a quick summary of my style as a GM. I like to make things up as we go along, improvising the story rather than sticking to a script or a plan. An improv GM, you might say. However, that doesn't mean I do not have a story in mind, just that I'm willing to quickly change it depending on the actions of the characters. This campaign, however, I totally don't have a plot or story in mind. Well, at least not yet. Instead, I have decided to allow both myself and the players time to discover their characters, opting to go with the idea that the first session will be the first time they've ever met. Then, after that, it will be randomly generated patrons and encounters, as I watch what they do and discover where their interest lies. I will then start adding in the plot for the campaign. If they bite, dive in. If they don't, come up with a different plot. At least that is the plan. So, first I need a starting location. So, looking at the map... Oh. Wait. I need to move this desk to make the room on the screen. Hang on a moment. Okay. There now. This is the map of the Speedwood Marches sector, courtesy of travelermaps.com. To make it easy on the players, I elected to start them on a tech level 15 world here at Mora. That's a bit hard to see. Let's show the Mora subsector. Yes, good. Okay, now let's enhance that. There, that's easy to see. Okay, there is the starting location, Mora. Mora is a world that was settled early in the exploration of the Speedwood Marches subsector. It is a lovely world, mostly covered in water, with a population of tens of billions of people. It is directly ruled by the Duchess of Delphine, who also is the titular head of the Mora subsector, the Duchy of Mora, or as she is called, the Duchess of Mora. And Duchess Delphine is pushing to make Mora the capital of the sector. Okay, now a world is a big place, so we need to choose a location on that world. Since this is the first time these characters will be seeing each other, let's start with an RGB tradition and start them in a bar. This bar is called the Gentle Landing. It's not the most popular place in Startown. It's a bit of a quiet little bar, but it's a nice friendly bar for the players to go to. Run by Ramon Destari, an ex-merchant, who makes it his mission in life to connect people together. So, as people enter his bar, he will chat to them, see what their interests are, and then, as more people enter, he will start to group them up. One by one, as people enter, they find themselves at a table with others who have a similar yearning for adventure and excitement. The group, now a party, find that they have a few ship shares between them. Well, it's Ford and Fenn that have the ship shares. About 4 ship shares between the both of them. But they're going to get together with those ship shares and purchase a ship. A ship share gives you 1 million credits towards a ship, so they will be able to spend 4 million credits towards a ship. Of course, ships run from the 50 to 100 to 200 plus million credits, so it's going to be a bit of a drop in the bucket, but every little bit counts when you're trying to reduce that mortgage. Anyway, they elect to head to the used shipyard on Mora. Mora has a lot of used shipyards, but they choose one based on luck, really, and look for a lower cost second-hand ship. Now, a second-hand ship, of course, is going to come with a few quirks, maybe a bit of permanent damage or a degraded hull. So what they're going to do is they're going to look through the large selection of used starships, and they will go through the various options. They will carefully consider hull damage, drive function, and then after going through a few ships, they decide on a nice little safari ship that has been previously used as a military vessel. The safari ship is a small ship coming in at 200 tons or around 2,700 cubic meters for those of us who like to use real units. The ship has no armor. It's capable of 1 G of acceleration, so it's probably one of the slowest ships you can find. And it has a maximum jump of 2 parsecs, which is actually kind of good. It's about a third as good as what you can ever find. It has the smallest computer possible that can support a jump of 2. Normally these ships come with a civilian-grade sensor suite and various other interesting features, such as a 20-ton launch, so they can actually shuttle to and from orbit if they need to, if they don't want to land the ship. An air raft, if they want to fly around in a grav vehicle on the ship, on the surface of a world, or an ATV, if they decide that they want to travel using a wheeled vehicle rather than a flying grav raft. The ATV, of course, being a bit bigger and holding a bit more cargo, so maybe it is an option. Now, the ship is an ex-military ship, having seen previous service with a group of mercenaries. So what we're going to need to do is roll on the military spacecraft quirks tables, and for the age of the ship that they have selected, they will need to roll 4 times. The first roll indicates that the sensors were suffering permanent degradation, reducing all rolls by -1, which is not too bad, I suppose, but it does mean it adds a -1 to all sensor checks. If we have a look at the civilian grade sensors that a ship normally comes with, it actually starts with a -2. So with the -1 as well, that actually means that your sensors get a -3 on all die rolls. Now, keeping in mind that it's a 2d6 roll, 2 6-sided dice, you need to get 8 or greater. It's actually a pretty big negative there, so you need to have a pretty skilled sensor operator to overcome that. Now, the next roll actually upgrades the sensors to the next best type. So if we have a look at the next best type, those are the military grade sensors, and that takes the roll to a baseline of +0. However, we still have the previous negative roll that needs to be applied, so that means that overall we end up with a -1. The next roll indicated that there was further damage to the sensors, so this means that it has taken the sensor roll for this military grade sensors back to a -2. Pretty much the same as if they started with civilian grade sensors, except military grade sensors actually take up more space on the ship. Finally, as luck would have it, the last roll was another negative to sensor function, taking the total negative to -3. This is not exactly the best deal, as we have a sensor suite that is worse than a civilian grade, but taking up more space inside the ship. Well, the obvious course of action is to basically rip out the current set of sensors and completely replace them. But at 3 million credits for civilian grade sensors and a whopping 4.1 million for military grade sensors, the party might have to accept flying blind for a little while. Additionally, the ship's indicated as having a double turret. Despite what the picture seems to indicate here, however, the ship listing as listed in the book has no actual weapons mounted in the double turret. Still, the party has considered several vessels and decided that this one is the best option. So, after getting a ship, the characters need to find a way to earn some money. So they start the search for a patron, someone who's going to pay them to do a job. After an extensive search, they eventually come across Gilderoy Lockhart, a merchant captain who is refinancing his ship with the bank in order to turn it into a luxury transport worthy of high-class passengers. To add a bit of flavour to his ship, he wants to mount some heads of dangerous animals in his dining area. To that end, he wants the party to go to Aris and hunt a dangerous beast. This world is 2 jumps away. Now, he wants them to go there in order to provide an interesting story for his passengers. He, of course, doesn't want to do the job himself. It's too dangerous for him. He wants the party to do all the hard stuff and take pictures. Then afterwards, he will add himself into the pictures. Obviously, a job like this appears dangerous, and they are not sure that Captain Lockhart would have the cash that they think they would be deserved for such a dangerous job. However, the captain does have a plan. When he refinances the ship, this will allow him to create a set of transferable ship shares, which he'll offer up to the party. Now, that is a generous offer. 10 million credits worth of ship shares, which can be applied to their own ship. This could be used to replace those damaged sensors, buy some weapons, even install a med bay, and if they've got enough left over, some other things that they might want to consider to upgrade their ship before they head out adventuring. The party, of course, will need to do a little research. Okay. So, as an improv GM, you have to remember that I have been coming up with this scenario on the fly. Now, this meant that as the players were discussing patrons, I was furiously checking the map, and it seemed to be an appropriate target, as it was 2 parsecs away, and I knew it had a low pop, not much lore, so that made it ideal for wilderness adventures. Also, making sure they go a full jump too gives me the opportunity to make any hostile encounter they do when they get into the system that much more dangerous. I'm a GM who believes that with great reward comes great danger. So, in conjunction with the players, we head off to the Traveller Wiki online to find out some more details. Now, the Traveller Wiki is an excellent resource, www.travellerwiki.com. I think that's it. And I recommend using it in order to provide yourself some additional flavour about whatever world that you wish to go to. Anyway, checking out the details on the Traveller Wiki, we see that it is a world that is slightly larger and has higher gravity as a result. This is excellent because the ship can only do 1G, but the world is going to have a gravity of about 1.25G. So that means that they're going to need to overpower those drives in order to be able to overcome the local gravity, risking maybe some damage or drive shutdown and allowing us to go with a crashed in the wilderness type of adventure if, things go badly. The atmosphere is thick, which is of interest. A large mass of air blowing around fast can certainly push a ship around, and appears to have volcanoes that spew radioactive materials into the air, so the atmosphere is on occasion tainted with a radioactive dust. Now, I'm going to say that the atmosphere is not always radioactive, and it's only really going to be in areas that are downwind from the active volcanism. And that means that there'll be a random chance for the air to become mildly to wildly radioactive. The population is small, according to what we read on the Traveller Wiki, so I assume that this will be a small settlement, probably living around the spaceport, servicing ships that go by, eking out a living in one of the few places on the planet that's clear of the radioactive dust. And then checking the notes a little further, that I can see that... What? No. Oh, what? The Planetary Navy has recently acquired a 50,000-ton asteroid ship, incapable of jump, and has transferred to them from Mora. This is a ship with a crew of around 1,000 people. So there's no way that a small settlement can crew this ship. This is obviously an issue that the original designers have created by not really considering this throwaway line they put into the library data about a capital ship, 50,000 tons, being transferred to the Rorice Planetary Navy. With a population of 50 people, I would have been surprised if they had a single fighter, let alone a 50,000-ton warship. Anyway, I am an improv GM, and one of the challenges of being an improv GM is to roll with the punches and come up with a way to make this possible. And while I've been internally lamenting this throwaway line in the library data, the players have become intrigued by this obvious contradiction, and I suddenly realise that I have my hook for this adventure. So, the players start investigating, and I lay down a few more clues as I start to develop an idea. A reporter investigating what was going on Rorice 50 years ago has mysteriously died on Mora. News articles appear to have been deleted from the local libraries, and when they find a source at the starport, that source confirms that there are large numbers of nuclear weapons being sent to the ship at Rorice. Okay, so the players are hooked. They head back to Captain Lockhart in order to accept the job. Captain Lockhart then shows them a map of Rorice. Thank you again to travelmap.com for having that resource available. And he shows them a location in both the Northern Hemisphere and a location in the Southern Hemisphere where he thinks a Rorice trapper can be found. He says that they should also check out the spaceport and talk to the locals. He kind of says that they should be alert and attentive. Look around, see what they can find out. So, not having that much cash, the crew rely on the ship's locker for outfitting themselves. They name the ship the Occam's Razor, which I'm hoping to incorporate as a theme for the campaign. Not sure that's going to work out, so I might have to drop it. The crew boards the ship, leaves the world of Mora, and spend a week in jump travelling from Mora to Rorice. On arrival at Rorice, they see above the world the asteroid ship, the Empress Triune. The capital ship just happens to be offering docking for visiting ships, which the party decide to accept, as they do want to find out more about what is happening. So, in the hangar bay, they start asking questions, and they discover that the crew is mostly contractors, or mercenaries. The warship is led by a corps of naval officers that have temporarily transferred to from the Imperial Navy to the Rorice Planetary Navy. However, to maintain the fiction that this is a locally owned warship, the commanding officer was selected from one of the 50 people living on the planet. The party elects then to go mingle in the common area of the ship. There, further questioning of the contractors and visitors indicate that the reason the ship has been transferred to Rorice is due to a potential sighting of a Zodani warship in the outer system, the enemy of the Imperium. The Empress Triune is being used as both a defence base and an exploration base for the mostly neglected and unexplored world. The Imperium have even hired corporate contractors to explore and map the surface. And this is the point where they meet Bert Phelps and his crew of contractors, who have been hired to explore and map the surface of the planet. The party decide that Bert is the perfect person to ask about the Release Trapper, and they show him the map with the 2 locations chosen by Captain Lockhart. Bert indicates that the northern location is not a really good place to find a trapper, and they should definitely check out the southern region, as they will definitely find a Release Trapper there. While they are talking, they notice that one of Bert's crew surreptitiously slips away. The party asks Bert who he works for, and he happily tells them Fullerton Industries. Yes. If you have played Classic Traveller and a particular adventure for that game, then you know that Fullerton Industries should immediately alert you to what I'm setting up here and tell you who Bert and his group are. The party elects to leave the Empress Triune and fly to the spaceport on the world. Here, they are given a warm welcome by the locals, who take them to their dining hall and share a meal with them. In the course of the meal, the locals impart what information they know, including the fact that there was a massive bombardment by the Imperial Navy on the other side of the planet. When questioned about when this bombardment took place, it seems to line up with the time period in which the reporter that they investigated on Mora had died. However, the locals could not tell them much about the other side of the planet, as they rarely venture there. So the party elect to ignore the advice of Bert Phelps and instead do the exact opposite, and go hunting for the Release Trapper in the Northern Hemisphere. Having made this bold decision, the party head back to their ship and commence the journey to their destination, flying slowly over the surface, preparing their equipment for landing. And that, my friends, is where the last adventure ended. The crew of the Occam's Razor flying their 1G ship against 1.25 Gs of local gravity with a thick and occasionally radioactive but breathable atmosphere, and about to land on the world to take on the native wildlife and whatever other surprise I decide is on the menu.